Welcome to Refreshed, a show where we highlight the wonderful people, work, and ideas on the internet. Today, we have Kate Sánchez, writer, critic, podcast host, and founder of the community, But Why Though? Everyone welcome Kate today. Woo.
Hi, I'm super excited because I love talking about things. I talk about things too much, so it's nice to do it out of Twitter.
It's good thing, I know, right? Good thing that you're a podcast host, because that must mean that you're doing your job well if you're talking too much about things. Welcome. So you are known for your work on But Why Though? Would you care to share with the Min-Max community a little bit more about your work there? I feel like there'd be a lot of overlap since we're kind of both like these indie teams making the dream go here. So what's up over on your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so I am co-founder and editor-in-chief of But Why Though Geek Community. We're just what it says. We're a geeky community. We cover literally everything in pop culture. So video games, TV, film, comic books, manga, anime, interviews, news, recaps, like literally everything. We do it all. But the cool thing about us is our main purpose is to uplift marginalized voices within the entertainment space. So we are a majority POC community, not exclusive POC, but we welcome everybody. But our main thing is getting people started in talking about the things they love. So a lot of people who write for us are writing for the first time, and it's all about growing together and sharing all of the different experiences in pop culture. Personally, there you will find all of my work. I kind of review everything, but I'm mostly a film critic as well as a manga reviewer. Those are the two things that I write the most of. But yeah, so that's amazing. Me, and that's what you can find.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. I am so excited. I've just had you in mind for such a long time, and I was just like, okay, with all the upcoming anime releases next month, I was like, this seems like great timing to have you on. So today we're here to just sort of talk about you, your work, and the community that you've grown during COVID. So I guess we'll sort of start with the most obvious question, which is what's been up with COVID and how's that been impacting your community?
So COVID's a lot. So from a site perspective, COVID really threw us off because we were actually set to cover South by Southwest. And so when COVID happened, everything just axed it. And from there, so we're a really young site. We're almost 3 years old, but not quite. So a lot of this year was about building opportunities. We got invited to a few places. We got invited to do some live podcasts. We had more access than we had any other year. And when COVID hit, it was like the rug got pulled out from under us. But the good thing is we've landed on our feet. Mm-hmm. We've started building out our anime and manga section of our community. Actually, we started that right as COVID hit. So that's been something that's kind of exploded. Mm-hmm. But the best part of it from a community standpoint is we've actually utilized our Discord to do a lot of community centric events. Mm-hmm. So every weekend we do different types of movie nights. We have Friday night movie night, horror night on Saturday, and then we have anime day on Sunday where we watch an entire season of an anime together.
Okay. What's the most recent anime that y'all watched together?
Great Pretender. That's what we did last week.
Okay. I haven't heard of it. What's it about?
So it's on Netflix. Okay. If you're a fan of Lupin and Cowboy Bebop, you'll be a fan of this one.
Okay.
It uses a lot of jazz. It's about con men conning really bad people. Okay. So it's really fun. It's told in, I believe, 3 5-episode arcs of different cons. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of fun. And it's a real diverse cast too. So that's always fun in anime.
I'll have to check it out. So you mentioned that your anime community is exploding, and this is sort of what I really want to talk about. Could you share a little bit more with the Min-Max community of that specifically?
Yeah, so I shot a lot of shots to like Viz and Crunchy and all that stuff, and we got a lot of access. But what came with that was a lot more coverage, right? So we were covering a lot more anime, we were covering a lot more manga. Like we probably cover about like 30 manga titles per month across all of our writers. And what came with that is a lot of people in the community realized that, oh yeah, everybody here likes anime too, or at least the majority of us do. So we've really worked on cultivating a space for people to talk about anime in the Discord, but also like put suggestions for animes that like they want to watch. So like once Got a High School on Crunchyroll wraps up, we're actually going to do an anime watch day for that, for the whole thing. And so it's really just pushed us into this space where it was something we hadn't been doing. And so now that we're doing it, our community is starting to engage with it and really show that side of themselves, which is amazing and really, really good. Because ultimately in pop culture media, as much as everybody covers games and comic books and stuff like that, a lot of the time from US based folks, they don't cover a lot of anime or manga, especially the ones that aren't my hero.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, what do you think about this as a sort of like theory of what's happening? Is it seems like there are a lot of folks who may have had like more limited exposure to like anime and manga, anime specifically. So maybe they've seen like some Miyazaki films, or maybe they like watched Oran way back, or maybe they watched like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And now it's like COVID's here. Everyone has this dispensable time. They're like, oh, look at all these other anime shows that like I can just keep watching. Like, do you see folks who are just like kind of reconnecting with that interest?
Yeah, I am. I'm seeing it a lot. And I think the thing that helps it is like, oh yeah, I have unlimited time now because I'm locked in my house. Yeah. Why not tackle 750 episodes of Naruto or 1,000 episodes of One Piece?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it too is the fact that because there was kind of a bottleneck on a lot of new media coming out, both in like traditional media, so like film and everything like that, but also there was a bottleneck on comics. So comic books stopped getting distributed for a solid month because essentially comic books are all run through one distributor. And when that distributor cut it out, everything stopped in comics. But what didn't stop was the production of manga, because a lot of that is tied to what happens in Japan. And they also use multiple distributors to ship everything. So that allowed as a consistent source of entertainment that didn't necessarily halt. Simuldubs did halt for a while, but you're still getting consistent new things. And so for me, I think a lot of it is that all of the stuff that you were keeping up with is now on hold. Okay, what else is out there? And then you start going to anime and manga. And for me specifically, I had been out of reading manga for over 10 years. Like I hadn't picked up a manga. Like maybe I've picked up a few chapters just to learn a little bit more about a character. And then I watched Beastars on Netflix.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I fell in love with it so hard that I needed to be reading. So I read all of it. And then we got our first round of Viz titles for review, and one of them was Food Wars 34. And I was like, well, I can read 34 volumes. I'm not doing anything else. So I started Food Wars from the beginning and went all the way to the end. There's like 315 chapters by Food Wars 35. And I've gotten back into Passions, not only because I'm reviewing them, but because it's something that like I just feel more connected to now. I can't really explain why. It's just because I have more time, and I always said, well, I don't read manga because I don't have time to keep up with stuff, or, I'm not reviewing it. So like, it was like this nice little, explosion of all my things. Like, okay, all the stars have aligned. Yes, it's a terrible situation worldwide, and COVID is bad, and I've experienced bad things from COVID, but a really great coping mechanism for me was anime and manga, and specifically within our community, the anime day, like it's a solid like 9 hours, like it's about like between 7 to 9 hours of just watching anime with people on the internet. And it's been a real connective tissue between us, our community, and the community with other people, especially in some places. Like we have a lot of folks in New York and New Jersey. Now we have people in California. Like we have people at different stages of lockdown. And when this first hit, the community nights were like the only way for people to start getting that interaction that they had stopped getting by locking down. And the anime days were the easiest because it was so long and there were so many episodes. And now we get asked for recommendations all the time in the Discord. So we just kind of like drop them and everybody seems to be vibing with it. Yeah.
Do you have, for manga, do you have like any recommendations for folks who are sort of interested?
Ooh, I have a lot.
What's the entry? Do you have like an entry point maybe? Like nice, kind of like just solid, like isn't, you know, like maybe isn't amazing, but isn't going to like disappoint you. Just like a good solid read.
Honestly, I think so. Viz Media does a Shonen Jump subscription. It's $2.99 a month. Get that and start reading My Hero. And the reason I say My Hero, one, it's a solid story. But two, if you're coming from a Western comics background, it's actually going to be something that isn't like shell-shocked when it comes to storytelling. Because there is a different way that storytelling is told in Japan versus the US. I mean, because it's all cultural. We have different concepts that we gravitate to. Same thing with anime. But My Hero Academia specifically was based, like the main character was based on Spider-Man. It uses a lot of traditional comic book tropes as well as shonen tropes. So it's a really good entry point into manga because it's not as different of what you're used to already seeing. Especially if you're an existing comic reader. If you're not, I would recommend just going off of something you may have heard of. So like, I always recommend if there's an anime that you may have liked, just go read that manga. And a lot of the times it's the same stuff that was in the anime that's in the manga. But once you get used to reading in a different format because you are reading right to left instead of left to right, it's a lot easier to not be as intimidated.
Yeah.
And I also always recommend like starting small. So like look for the titles that have like fewer number of chapters because it's not as intimidating. It's like Chainsaw Man just came out. That's a really good one to read. Or Volume 1's going to be coming out from Viz published. Manga does chapters and volumes. It's kind of like individual issues, trade paperbacks. So just starting small is always good too. But I think a solid way to start is just looking through Shonen Jump and kind of like perusing through there.
Just see what catches your interest.
Because they have everything. They have romance in Shonen Jump. They have My Hero, which is solid action. They have more adult titles like Jujutsu Kaisen, which is a really good one. You can find a little bit of everything. And honestly, just click on it and read the description. And if it catches you, it's like a chapter is less than 20 pages in manga most of the time. So like, or in like Shonen Jump stuff. So you won't lose too much time just kind of going into it. And if you don't want to commit to getting a subscription, Viz makes the first and last chapters of all of the manga on Shonen Jump free. So you can just go in there and check out a few chapters and see if it's what you want, and then, you know, subscribe later.
That's an awesome recommendation. I mean, too, because it's not like one thing. It's just like a lot of different things that folks, because I think that's what it is. It's just like there's so many different entry points. And like, again, we're not talking about like a genre, right? Like this is like an entire way of telling stories. And so like you're going to get so many different ends of the spectrum from, like you're saying, like action to romance. We have some community questions. Folks are really excited to talk to you. So Nate Silly asks, what does Kate think about Kang being the next big bad for the MCU? That's a pivot. Yeah,
no, I mean, I'm kind of excited. I mean, we've already been introduced to time travel, so it's a logical choice. I also think it's an easy way to bring in the Fantastic Four because essentially Kang is like the distant relative. So it's a nice entryway for that. It allows you to expand cosmic, like it fits into what it's doing now. And I think specifically with all the quantum realm stuff and time travel stuff that Ant-Man was at the center of in Endgame, it makes perfect sense for that to be what comes in next.
Well, there you go. Thanks for answering some of our community questions. Another one here is, are you excited for Bleach to come back and finish its final arc in 2021? Speaking of like big anime, you know, like there's One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, but like Bleach has been, you know, kind of off, you know, it's been done for a while now, but I feel like people are very excited for it to come back. Where are you at?
I'm excited.
Some hesitation.
So it's hard because like there's a lot of storytelling elements in Bleach that fell off, and like the mangaka has like, and if you're listening to China, you don't know what mangaka is just like a manga creator, writer, illustrator, that kind of stuff. He like very vocally said he just wanted to draw cool things and kind of let story just kind of fall away. But I think what it's going to be, I'm less excited for the final arc to hit anime, and I'm more excited for the cultural moment it's going to be for so many anime fans and so many manga fans. Because when you think about the entry point for anime and manga in the US, especially when you look at Toonami and Adult Swim, Bleach was one of those first building blocks for a lot of people. So I think getting to experience that and experience it as something new together again, I think that's going to be a really, really beautiful cultural moment within like the anime community. And also, I'm really excited for Burn the Witch, which is within the Bleach universe. It's getting its own movie in October on Crunchyroll. It's already greenlit for a follow-up.
Which characters are in it?
Well, it's completely new.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but
so
okay.
It's within the
I didn't
universe,
know
but a completely new story. Yeah, it's in London. There are dragons. It's dope. It's really, really good. There's a current miniseries right now on the Shonen Jump app. It evolved from a one-shot, and then there's a movie that's going to be coming out in October. I don't remember the studio that's animating it, but it looks amazing. And so what was done there with the writing and everything, I'm really excited. I'm just wondering how faithful the anime is going to be for everything. But yeah, so I'm long way to say I'm excited about what Bleach is going to do for the anime community.
Yeah. Well, and Bleach, I think Bleach was like my first big, long anime that I watched. Yeah. And it is kind of like an easy entry point. But like, I definitely get what you're saying is towards the end, it like falls off a bit. And so I wonder maybe, you know, like when I think, Netflix is bringing it back. Is that?
Everything's available on Hulu right now.
Okay. It's Hulu. Okay. Yeah. They, you know, maybe they'll switch it up a little bit or try and like rein in the narrative a little bit, because I feel like the show could benefit a lot from that, because it has such a great world and like such lovable characters. And so when you're saying the other show is based in the Bleach universe, I'm just like, okay, I hope Yoruichi is in it. That's like all I want. Like one of the first times like I saw like a visibly like black or brown character in an anime, and like also she's a badass. Like
between her and Chad, I was like, brown people, yes,
I know.
I'm there.
It's like so sad because it's like ginormous cast, right? And it's like real, but you know, it's important because it's a popular show.
I mean, I got absolutely excited when we went to Hueco Mundo and everything was in Spanish. Yeah, I was like, yes. Canonically, all the Arankar are Latino. Like, that's what we're doing here.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite games to play, is like, okay, or a great conversation to sort of get into, and like very much tied to the online fandom, is like, okay, Fanon versus canon. For folks who are like new to these conversations, Fanon is like the fan-made version of a character. Canon is like the written, you know, like canon version of a character. Yeah. And one of my favorite, this is like the most specific thing, but one of my favorite series of TikToks are black and brown TikTokers saying like, okay, these characters like are like Fanon Latino in Haikyuu. And so Nishinoya, Tanaka, and I guess Oikawa and Hinata are actually canonically, right? Because Hinata is Brazilian.
Oh, right? Is he?
Yeah, he is. Isn't that funny? Out of all of them. Yeah,
I did not know that. Holy crap.
Yeah, Hinata is Brazilian. That's why he visits Oikawa in the manga anyways. Because, okay, so we're getting really deep into the weeds here. We're getting really deep into the weeds here. But, like, do you have any moments of joy you see, like, your community sort of, like, claiming characters for their own and, like, sort of reading things in their own way that empowers them?
Yeah, so a lot. So actually, I have an anime podcast called Did You Have to, and on there, my host. So I'm obviously a brown woman. I'm Mexican American specifically, and my co-host Nisha, who's also my best friend, is a Black woman. And so our understanding is because all of these characters are stateless unless given a state.
Yeah.
They're like, if you are brown, if you are visibly brown or even tan, you are automatically Latinx. But if it's a Black character or a darker skin character, we've just canonically said this is an Afro-Latinx character. We will both claim them. There's no state attached. They belong to both of us because there is so few. Yeah. There's so few brown characters when it comes to stuff. So for me, Yoroichi was the first time that I saw a brown woman. I was like, yes, this is amazing. Yeah. And I think, I mean, honestly, Bleach was the first time I saw any of this. But when I look at like Fanon stuff as to who I say is like, I mean, we claim all, like everybody, which is the fun thing. But I don't know. I don't think I can actually pick, which is funny because I'm actually writing a list of my 10 favorite Latinx, and I'm going to use quotation marks around characters in anime. But I actually think less Fanon, more actual. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question other than like I claim all of them. Yeah, if you're brown, you're automatically going to get slapped on you. That's just what's going to happen.
Well, and two, it's interesting because it's like, I feel like a lot of times, like, I love communities like yours because sometimes, like, folks just, like, forget that, like, Black and brown people enjoy anime and actually have, like, long histories of, like, enjoying the media, like anime as a media. And so, like, it's been interesting for me because anime has been a way for me to, like, reconnect with, like, honestly, like, other Latinx nerds and, like, geeks. Yeah. Because, like, it's been harder for me to find Latinx gamers for whatever reason, but it is not hard for me to find Latinx anime fans.
Yeah, and I think people forget too, like, Dragon Ball Z used to show on Telemundo. Like, for a lot of folks, like, oh, that's my fanon. Vegeta. Theo Vegeta. Vegeta is Latinx. The Saiyans are Latinx. That is what I claim them, and all you gotta do is Google Vegeta mustache, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about, because we all have a Theo who looks like that. That's my fan in there. But you're completely right. Like, a lot of the times, like, so it's funny, right? Because it's not even like a white American thing. It's a Japanese pop culture thing that came over to the US. And then you end up with a lot of white fans a lot of the time erasing the contributions that Black and brown folks have given to it. And like, when you think about like the history of it, like, so much of this people experienced in Spanish for the first time because the large animes had those dubs. Yeah. They were there. Saint Seiya, huge in Latin America. And then in the US as well, you end up with so much of the social media movements and a lot of, and specifically like the streetwear elements of it, that comes from Black cultures. That comes from Black anime fans putting their stamp on this and pushing anime forward. Yeah. And so when you look at like the two arms of it, like, Black and brown folks have literally been the reason why anime has succeeded in the US in the way it has. And when I say that, I don't just mean people watching it, I mean people adapting it. And it's really, it's interesting for me. And we have an episode where we interviewed Eunice from Black Girls Anime. And we all talked about our experiences in like high school and stuff with that in anime. And I went to predominantly Latino high school. The two largest populations of students were Black and Latino. And I was surrounded by like nerdy as hell Black and brown folks. Yeah. All the time. Like, I had a friend who looked straight cholo, but would rock that, he would rock the, like, the Dragon Ball Z, like, button-up shirt with the one button. And I'd be like, oh my God, this is a confluence of cultures. And so, like, for me, it was really weird shifting into the online perspective, because a lot of people the community I had there, what I grew up with was very different from like when I would go talk to other people online or even in person. It's like, oh, that's a white person thing. I was like, how is anime a white person thing? Yeah. First of all. Yeah. So I like it, so it's not. Yeah. And so like those types of like gatekeeping elements have been so prevalent that like it's really beautiful to see so many communities that look like mine and have faces like me doing work. I think Get in the Robot is probably one of the best examples of that. They did anime critiques and comedy and everything, and they were pretty much all POC. And that's something that's really beautiful because we have built the culture that has developed in the US. And so to see our voices centered for like the first time in a long while, it's really awesome.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it.
I know. I was gonna say I would be remiss if we didn't mention your sweater. Okay, you have to explain to the chat your sweater and that clothing line.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Crunchyroll does a Crunchyroll Loves collection about every month. It's limited design streetwear collections that they partner with different folks for. And Megan Thee Stallion got to do one. So MTS XCR. And then the back has I don't know if I can show it, but like the cowgirl.
And this was like just ahead of the WAP. And so like it was like perfect timing.
It really was. And if you all haven't known, or if you all haven't seen it, if you Google Todoroki, or I think it's Todoroki Tina is what she calls it. But like if you Google like Megan Thee Stallion Todoroki, she cosplayed on the cover of Paper Magazine. And that's amazing. Like the way that anime and manga is being uplifted in popular culture, it owes a big debt to Black and brown folks, but specifically Black entertainers who are pushing it. And pushing it into the mainstream in such a different way.
Yeah, well, and it's just, and it is unfortunate, right? Because it's like, we're still, you know, there are a lot of folks still fighting for, you know, representation. And it's like, again, this whole thing, it's like, when you look at the consumer base, like there's a very disproportionate amount of like Black and brown people consuming like these products. And then when you compare it to like the relative representation, but to focus on something positive, you brought up a new show on Crunchyroll that is launching soon. That's based on Mesoamerican myth. What's the name of it again?
Onyx Equinox.
Okay.
And it's gonna have actual Indigenous language in it too, so that's gonna be really fun.
And do you know? So I imagine. I mean, do you know anything sort of about like the production of it? And I imagine you'll be covering it, possibly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be reviewing it. I have an interview with Sophia Alexander, who's the creator, that's coming out in October for everybody to listen to, where we get deep into talking about the production, talking about the creation of the show and like her goals for it. But Sophia Alexander is a Mexican creative. She did voice work, and then she pitched this idea, and a lot of it was grounded in her own personal experiences visiting Aztec and other indigenous like preserved areas and museums in Mexico when she grew up. And so if one of the things I really like about it is the fact that from a Mexican American perspective, I mean, my family, I can trace us back to like we've always been in Texas, I guess is the easiest way to do it, is easy to say. But Mexican Americans particularly have this view of Aztecs and like Mesoamerica as like this past we don't remember, or this past we can't connect to, or we can't remember because of colonization. And there are currently a lot of indigenous folks in Mexico that are under like really, really extreme like discrimination and stuff like that. And so to see a Mesoamerican mythology based show that is focusing on like, and these characters aren't like, they're not passing for anything else. They are deep, they are brown. It is a beautiful deep brown that you can't tell I am, because this light is very washing me out right now. But it's something that is just extremely beautiful. And it's like seeing myself recognized in animation and in a very different way than I have, because Sesmanos, which is an animation from Powerhouse Animation, which is on Netflix, is a Mexican animated show that was created by a Mexican American, and it features it's set in Mexico, and it's like it's a mixture of mexploitation and kung fu cinema, so like gritty grindhouse like 70s. And Onyx Equinox is something entirely different. It's about this mythic past that like, or this past and mythology that I know about and that I've been told about. I mean, like, I grew up driving by apartments that had giant Aztec warriors painted on the side and everything like that. And so to see an anime that's pulling this forward on like the largest anime platform, like, it's amazing. And when it comes out because it will come out in English, it is also going to simultaneously come out in Spanish and Portuguese as well. So it's going to be real fun. I'm real excited. it fills my heart with joy.
Yeah. So do you know if like the original recording, like the first recording of it, is that going to be in Spanish or is it going to be in Japanese and then they'll dub it to Spanish?
No, I believe it's all being done in English and Spanish first.
Okay.
So it's an entirely like Western production for the most part.
Okay.
So it's like a Western animation.
Yeah.
It's an original IP, not based on a webtoon or anything like that. So I believe it's all done in English first.
Okay.
And then being translated into other languages after that.
Okay. Yeah, and it's interesting too, like that's like an example of something really big where you have an entire show and like it's featuring like visibly brown characters. But even like I was like reading about the upcoming season of Haikyuu, and like it's the first time in that show that like, so one of the new characters on like the new volleyball team. Okay, for those of you who aren't familiar, Haikyuu literally means volleyball. It's just a show about volleyball. That's like all you really need to know for the sake of this conversation. But the new volleyball so the next season's about like this specific match. There are nationals, and one of the volleyball players is black on the other team, and his palms, you know, are different shade than like his skin tone. And like there are a lot of critics coming out and saying, wow, this is good because like this is more realistic. Like a lot of times in anime, like little details like that, like there are still, you see these sort of biases in like how folks are animated. And so, you know, like step by step. But what sort of makes you, I mean, is there anything that makes you like most optimistic? Is it just seeing growth in your community? Is it seeing shows like this?
I mean, it's seen shows like this. It sucks because there's a lot of colorism that's like steeped in anti-blackness in anime. Like you can't get around it. Like God of High School just hit that with I think it was like episode 9. It was episode 9. They had a very not good representation of a brown character, just visually, because they exaggerate features. They how to explain it? They animate people to look like minstrels, and it's very frustrating. And obviously, because I co-host my podcast with a Black woman, like we talk about this so much. And sometimes it's even subtle things where like they mention tanning or something like that. And like for me growing up, because I'm like one of the I think there are 2 of us, me and my mom, are the only 2 brown people in our family. Like we're the only one with pigmentation. Everybody else is white passing. And so like growing up, I heard a lot like, don't go out in the sun, don't tan, like all that kind of stuff. And so when I see that being played for jokes in anime, it hurts a lot because like I know exactly what you're saying when you're saying that. But what gives me hope is the way that companies have been reacting to things. So I was very worried, just being really upfront. Since I review God of High School, I wrote a really critical review of that episode. Marin Lee is the name of the character, talking about that and how alienating it was. And when I did that, Crunchyroll responded like, this means a lot. Thank you for covering it in this way. We don't want anybody to feel alienated. And I was like, oh crap, that's awesome. Because I'm a film critic. So like I review a whole bunch of stuff. And I've never once gotten a response from a PR person being like, oh yeah, thanks for reviewing my thing negatively. We'll take it into account. And that for me, knowing somebody who is representing a really large platform, like one of the largest platforms in the US for consuming anime, is thinking about this when it comes to their originals and is open to that type of response. That's what makes me excited. I think the other thing is seeing people like Arthel Isam's Jarrow, I think is the name of it. It's the first Black-owned anime studio in Japan. And like that's coming up. We have Cannon Busters, we have Sesmanos, we have even Castlevania has it's really diverse cast, and they're animated beautifully. There's an attention to how the richness of the skin is depicted and how it looks differently. Like nobody looks like flat washed out. Exactly.
Because that happens.
Like it's like a gray undertone. I'm like, no, brown skin is beautiful and vibrant. It's not just mud. And so when I see small things in animation, it makes me happy. But when I see projects getting greenlit more. That makes me the most excited, because it's a recognition that like, no, this is what our community looks like. This is the kind of stuff they want to watch, and this is what we need to be giving them. And so I think the door is like just completely wide open for people for studios to do more of this. I hope that answers the question.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So I guess I'm thinking about this too, in as far as like the larger context of like building like online communities and open online communities. Like, is there anything special that you've learned throughout all this? Because some of these conversations are hard, right? Like, it's hard to acknowledge, like, honestly, like violent depictions of people, you know, like in these shows that we love, right? Are there any like telling stories of like how your community navigates this?
Always listen. Like that's the one thing that has been beautiful about the community that we've been cultivating, is it's not about being defensive of something that you like. It's understanding that, yo, you didn't animate that. You just watched it. Yeah. Like and even if you like, there's a level of defensiveness that happens within like Anna Twitter is what anime Twitter is called. And a lot of it is just like, I'm going to, and this goes beyond anime. It goes in any sort of pop culture critique. It's very, I love this thing, so nothing with it can be wrong. The thing that has been the most beautiful is to watch people actively listening. Like, okay, I loved this thing, but what did you think? Or having people like read my reviews of God of High School and be like, I didn't think about that, but then I read this review and that made sense. And it's understanding in real life, like the job that actually pays me is I do diversity and inclusion work, and I do trainings and everything like that. And when you're building your own anime community, you're just talking with a friend, the important thing is like, yeah, it may make you uncomfortable, but think about how uncomfortable it is for the person telling you that. Yeah. And you may not like, yeah, sure, you like a problematic piece of media. Everybody does. Yeah. You can still like that thing. Yeah. But think about it critically. And because for me, if I love something, but I'm not holding it accountable to be better, I'm actually letting down the thing that I love, because it's never going to be perfect. Yeah. And nothing's, and in truth, nothing will ever be perfect, but we can get closer to it if we listen to each other and we push for differences and change, and we push for things to grow and evolve. And that goes for the communities that we're building, the anime that we're watching, and the friendships that we're making with other people. Being held accountable isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and two, like I see, you know, even criticism, like you're saying, like it's sort of like this act of like love. You might not love that specific element about that thing, but it shows that you took the time to watch it, sit down, write about it carefully, craft an argument about it. And that's something that like always baffles me, is like, okay, like it's, you know, like criticism is also like an act. It's a form of engagement, right? And so it's not just like I'm brushing this off, or this is all bad, or like I'm just gonna shut myself off now. And
also, like, who goes into something thinking I want to hate on this? We all go watch something and we think like, I just want this to be great. And every once in a while, I do want like people to be like, oh, what if I was watching something and it did one thing very bad and it snapped me out of it entirely, and then I started questioning all my views on things. A lot of people have those feelings. And that's something that we can't escape because of how we're depicted in media. So like understanding how we can make it better and make a more inclusive space is how we make sure that everybody can stay immersed in these really badass worlds. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Yeah. So I have just to sort of pivot a little bit, I have another question from a community member. Are there any anime that seem to be more conducive to like sharing memes and like building community online? Do you see any specifically that have just like taken My Hero?
Off? Yeah.
My Hero? Yeah. I think I have like every like heart edit of a different My Hero character, you know, like it's the picture of My Hero character like doing an action pose, and then you just have a whole bunch of hearts around them. Yeah, like that's been really good. I think manga in and of itself, and you can thank Scanlators for that, has really been conducive to making funny memes, because you can just take a white box and put it over the panel and make it say what you want to say. But I think My Hero is probably the one that I've seen the most from. I think One Punch Man, because it's a satire of shonen, like has also been really good for that.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to edit anything. You just can drop it.
Yeah.
I think that I would say from like the memes that I see, those are probably the biggest. Demon Slayer is also another one.
Yeah, because it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful show. It blows my mind like that. Yeah.
It's amazing. The animation style is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But those are probably the ones that I see the most memes of, and they're the ones that you can get. I mean, I run our Twitter, so like for a solid, like my husband, who's our co-founder, he had to be like, "Hey, you have to pay something other than an anime edit." And I was like, "Well, that's how I want to interact."
Why?
So it's like, just do something other than anime is fine. But it's taking characters that you really like, and you can kind of identify with them when you do funny things with them, and. So those would be the ones that I would say the most. I would actually put My Hero and Demon Slayer. My Hero, then Demon Slayer, and then One Punch. But My Hero, like hands down, is probably the most that I see come across.
Well, and we have to talk about a star who's risen out of the ashes of My Hero, just like in the online discourse. Bakugo. Wait, yes.
Yes, my baby.
Our precious Angie boy. He is just like taken off online. Like people are obsessed with him. I was with my cousin and she was just about to turn 21. I was like, "What do you want for like your 21st birthday?" And she's like, "All I want is a Bakugo body pillow." And I'm like, "Okay." Like I wish that's the energy I had at that age.
I have 6 statues of Bakugo over here. You can't see them because they're on my other shelf. And so I love him because long spiel. My Hero and Horikoshi specifically have remapped what it means to be shonen. Our shonen protagonist isn't dumb for like the first time in forever.
Wait, you say Deku isn't dumb?
Deku is not dumb.
Okay.
He's not dumb.
Yeah.
The thing is the beautiful thing that I love about Deku is that even though he's incredibly strong now, he still relies on all of the strategy that he built from not having powers. And so he thinks through every situation. Now, he leads with his heart, which puts him in like baby himbo status. Like, he's going to make some real gullible and dumb decisions.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's not Goku.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he doesn't need to have the, oh my God, the world's going to end and now I'm going to snap and be serious. He's always serious. He just has a kind heart.
Yeah.
But when we look at the rivals, like when you look at somebody like Sasuke or Vegeta, a lot of the times they're really, really one note and they don't allow for a lot of growth. Kind of like, even though they're different in their arcs, they still embody a lot of the same characteristics and don't actually change a lot of their behaviors. They just change who that behavior is being directed at. And when you look at Bakugo as a rival, specifically, this is a character who literally starts in the trash bin and slowly comes out. And I love him. He is my child. I have adopted him. I have way too much Bakugo stuff. And what I love about him is we literally saw him hit his lowest point. Horikoshi put the person who believed he was the strongest one, he was going to be the number one. He saw everybody else as flawed except himself and literally took away all of his power. Spoilers for My Hero, by the way.
But really early.
Really early. He has him get captured by the villains. And then you get to see everybody react and say, well, yeah, he's going to be a villain. Did you see how he acted there? And so you get to see the character assert himself as a hero, but also understand that he does not have what it takes right now. And it's a really beautiful moment in his arc. And as well, you get to see how he reacts and the guilt that he carries when all the All Might stuff happens in season 3 when he fights Deku. And it's understanding that he's not a bad character. He just has a lot of things internalized that he hasn't known how to explain. Yeah. And so I think that there are elements of Bakugo that he's shown throughout the series, even back to like season 2 in the sports tournament, where he's literally, him and Aizawa were the only 2 people who believe that Uraraka is a threat at all. And everybody's saying he's a villain. He's like, no, she's actually really strong. Yeah. Like, she's not fragile. Yeah. And And so I think what Horikoshi has done in Bakugo's arc is he's taken him out of the trash bin and put him in situations where you get to see what that competitive drive can do positively. And you're getting to see him molded to do that. If anybody has read the manga, spoil it, but Mirko, who showed up at the end of season 4, has a very, very huge piece to play in the manga, and her style is very much Bakugo. If Bakugo was a girl, Mirko is very much, I will not quit. This has to be done. It will get done. I will be the best. And that she doesn't change that. And so I see a lot of people comparing Bakugo to Endeavor, but that's not who Bakugo is, because even though he was a bully, and even though he did, he did a lot of bullying, and he has the way he talks can sometimes be that way, he's learned to not put himself above, and he's learned to value his other team members. And there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen in season 5 of the show, just based on the manga arcs, that's going to showcase that. He is as much a leader as Deku is, but he is now in a place to understand what he can't do, which for me is the growth that shonen rivals rarely ever get.
Yeah.
That's my spiel on Bakugo. Yeah. I have like 3 pieces on our website about him. I have a piece about his 5 best moments, and I have a piece in defense of him. So if anybody's interested, you can go check them out.
So I have another community question, but before, top 5 himbos in anime, go.
Ooh, any of the JoJos. I think Ichigo is one of them. Man, I ranked them. Ichigo, Guts. I can't answer these. What's his name?
Haikyuu is just a show. It's like, what if we put a bunch of himbos in one show?
Yeah.
And then what would happen?
What's his face?
There's
I think
also
it's Josuke. Josuke, it's a JoJo. It's part 4,
Okay.
Diamond Unbreakable. That JoJo. I don't remember his name.
There's
also
like
all the JoJos.
Promare's protagonist is an incredible himbo.
I haven't seen that one.
It's really good.
Okay.
Top
Chad
5
is a himbo.
Chad's a himbo.
Chad's a himbo. We did a whole episode on himbos for my podcast, and I'm just spacing on. I'm having a himbo moment and not thinking about my himbos.
It's okay. The other day I had the biggest himbo moment. Was like, oh, what's the female version of a himbo? And I was like, is it a shimbo? And I was like, wait, no. So Staple Pie asks, for someone who has only watched super violent anime as a kid, what show do you recommend to watch as a reintroduction? Great question.
Ooh.
Because My Hero's good, but it's also very action based.
Yeah, so if you're looking to kind of stay in the same vein and like maybe cycle out, it depends. If you want something really wholesome to pivot to, I would probably go. I'm trying to think of something that's readily available. Honestly, Haikyuu is a really good entry point. If you ever played sports like that, it automatically hits you at your core. But if you want something that is more focused and maybe a little bit dark but has development, I think Tower of God's a good one.
In the chat, someone recommended Food Wars, which I feel like is also a good. Yeah.
Food Wars is fun. Food Wars is how ecchi should be done. I love Food Wars. That's a really fun one, a really light and bright one.
Yeah.
It's really hard because if you want to move from the violent, not violent anime, then like there's a lot for you.
Yeah.
If you want to stay in that realm, this is only if you want to stay in that realm. Devilman Crybaby on Netflix from Science Saru is probably one of the most beautifully written stories about trauma and growth. And it's dark as hell. It's really action packed.
Yeah.
It's a good story, but it's really emotional and fairly graphic.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in really violent anime, you can stay there.
Yeah. And that's like very violent. Like that's a kind of like the way that show depicts trauma is like really like lucid, like you're dreaming it. It's really interesting. It's also it's kind of scary too.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. It hits you really hard. I try not to recommend that to like just anybody, but like if you do know anime from like those late night showings that came on all the time on like HBO or even some of the Adult Swim stuff, like that wouldn't be too far out. It's a beautiful story and a beautifully animated anime. So it is one of my favorites, but definitely like layers and layers of content warnings for that show.
Yeah, we have the chat throwing out. I have to shout out all these great shows. Okay, yeah, JoJo is another good one.
JoJo's fun.
There's
Psychic K.
Yeah, Psychic K is good. Yeah, it's really cute.
So hilarious.
Yeah. I breezed through that. It's just that's just like an easy watch. Like
it is. It really, really is. I also recommend Given to everybody who just a sweet romance that has a powerful story about overcoming grief is Given. That's available on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. Yes, Given is and the movie came out in Japan.
Yes.
I'm hoping it'll come out here.
We're so to get it, and I'll be very sad if we don't. Yeah. I own Given both digitally and in physical form because I just had to.
So do you have any, I guess like we have just a little bit of time left here. Do you have anything you're looking forward to that you just like want to rave about? Or we already talked about like some of the upcoming releases. Do you have anything else that you're just like thinking about?
Honestly, I don't want to say not really. It's just like the amount of content, I guess. Like I'm just looking forward to all of the webtoon stuff that's coming out on Crunchyroll. And then personally, I don't.
Okay, here's a more specific question from the chat, because I feel like this is sort of like a connection between two of your interests. Folks are wondering if you have any horror anime.
Oh, I have
for
a
Halloween,
whole list
some spooky watches.
I have a whole list of horror anime that I did for the site, but one of them, a really good entry point with like really like deep dark horror story with also like cute protagonists, is A Promised Neverland. That is a really good one. Puella Magi Magica is also a phenomenal one.
That show just astounded me. Yeah.
Yep. Because it's essentially a twist on Magical Girls, like Magical Girls, but like if it was actually really dangerous and that's a really, really good one. Other horror ones, Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be a new anime based on a Shonen Jump title that is coming out in October, and that is all based on like a guy who kills demons. Chainsaw Man is also manga if you read it. That is really fun, also horror based. And then just to throw ecchi in there, I'm gonna say High School of the Dead. It is trash. It's a garbage fire, but it's a fun one. It is infamously known for the boob gif where the bullets passing through and like the boob physics in that one is a little bit crazy. It's very fan service, but the zombies are fun and the kills are really fun too. From a horror perspective. So I actually like that, but just make sure you're okay with fan service, because sometimes that's not somebody's thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, those would be like some recommendations. I have like a more exhaustive list on the site.
Yeah, and if you are looking for like the full list, we are just about wrapping up the hour. Where can they find you? I know, folks, I'll do a tweet and I'll follow up in the MinMax Discord after this. Like, where can folks find you? People have been wondering about the Discord, your work, so that they can just, find your podcast on all the himbos. Yes, they can get the exhaustive list.
Yeah, so you can find me at ohmymythrandir on Twitter. That's a Lord of the Rings reference. That is where I do most of my social activity. On my Instagram, same handle there. That's where I'm reviewing a lot of Yaoi or BL manga, if you know what that is. And then our site is butwhythoughpodcast.com. And you can find us on Twitter at butwhythoughpc. As for our Discord, that is our pinned tweet right now because, that's what I'm excited for. This Saturday, we're having a marathon of all the Lord of the Rings extended cuts. We're starting at 11 a.m. CT and we're going till it's done. We have worked in breaks for both second dinner and 11sies. So we will have built-in breaks for food and everything. We're doing that. We're really, really excited. Tomorrow, we're going to be coming out with a list of like inspired drinks and the recipe for lemba spread. So we're really excited to do this really big community event. And it all spurred from finding out a couple of community members had never seen Lord and everybody was like, what the hell? We have to have you watch them. And so now we're going to be marathoning the extended cuts. So that's the pinned tweet at butwhythoughpc on Twitter. And you can go there and get the link to enter.
Awesome. And y'all are at PAX too, right? Do you have any talks or anything you'd want to quickly plug here for that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. You're helping me so much because I forgot these things. But on the 19th, actually, give me a second because somebody just tweeted out the time and everything. So I'm on a panel called Making a Home in Horror. We're talking about building horror communities, specifically horror video game communities from both the PR journalists and community member perspective. And that is going to be on Saturday, the 19th. And I believe it is at 7 p.m. CT. But if you go to the PAX Online site, you can look that up. And I'll be putting a tweet out about it later on today too. So we're doing that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming today. And thanks to the chat. Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Y'all allow us to do more content like this. Give MinMax a follow if you haven't already on Twitch, also on Twitter. Your support is the reason that we can have people like Kate on. And this is just like a special treat because we get to sort of have like these two communities come together. Except you're like more focused in like the film and like anime side of things, even though obviously like if folks go to your Twitter, they'll see all your gaming takes today. Because there have been a lot of gaming takes recently.
I've had a lot of them.
And so like give Kate a follow, but also, again, thank you to everyone again here today. Everyone have a great week. Thank you.
Do you want to get your name or Twitch or YouTube channel in the description of everything we release? Record a podcast with us, put a picture of your choice on MinMax's TV, or a whole lot more? You can check out the benefits for supporting us on Patreon. If you support MinMax at any tier on Patreon, you can submit questions or comments for us to read on the air, and you'll also get access to the wonderful MinMax Discord. We need your help to keep this whole indie trainer rolling, so we'd appreciate it if you checked us out.